I'm so excited. Welcome. I will pass it over to Lindsay Stein to set us up for this session. She's the CEO of nonprofit organization Today I'm Brave. So Lindsay, over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. As Ali said, before I joined the nonprofit world, I actually was a journalist for over a decade covering marketing. So I'm really excited to dig into all things e-commerce today with our lovely guest and e-commerce expert, Ali Kriegsman. Ali is the co-founder and COO of Bulletin, a B2B wholesale marketplace. Ali is also a Forbes 30 Under 30 recipient and one of Fast Company's most creative people in business. And in addition to that, she actually has an awesome book coming out that's a very cool title and just as cool of content. It is called How to Build a Goddamn Empire, and I can't wait to talk about that and e-commerce with Ali. Ali, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Lindsay, and thank you, Yelp. This is so awesome. Thank you for having me. If you're looking for me on other platforms, my last name is IEGSMAN, not EIG, so just slack that to the channel in case anyone wants to check me out after the chat, but very, very excited to have this discussion with you today.
Perfect. Well, we've got a lot to talk about. Before I dig into some of the big questions, I would love to just have you talk a little bit more about Bulletin so you can tell everyone watching all about that B2B wholesale marketplace.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's a perfect place to start. So if there are any brick and mortar businesses on here, whether you're a retailer or a restaurant, I know that Yelp covers so much territory. Bulletin actually used to be retailers ourselves. We started out by running pop-ups all around New York. Then we went indoors and decided to open 5 retail stores all over New York City. Our mission has always been to help brands increase their distribution with retailers, whether they're online or offline retailers, in a way that's much more affordable and straightforward than paying for crazy expensive trade shows or paying for showrooms or wholesale reps. So at the end of 2018, we decided to build and launch our own wholesale marketplace so that we could connect these brands and small businesses with more retail opportunities than just in Bulletin's owned and operated stores. So we launched that marketplace at the end of 2019. It's been growing. We're so happy with how quickly our small business community has exploded. And essentially, retailers come to our site, whether they're boutiques, spas, gyms, wellness centers, fitness studios, to discover new brands and inventory that they can order for their own stores. And for brands, it's this very straightforward, easy, super seamless way to start connecting with retailers all over the US and Canada.
Well, perfect. That definitely seems like you're the right person for this session then. And also for everyone watching, we have a lot to dig into. If we have time, I will take some questions from the audience. We might not get to them, but we'll see. But I swear we're going to cover a lot. So I think this is a good place to start. It's also a big question to start with, but I would love to kind of have an e-commerce state of the union with you. What are some current e-commerce trends that people watching may not know about?
Yeah, it's a really great question. E-commerce has changed and accelerated so quickly all through COVID. I mean, we've seen it ourselves with the rise of wholesale marketplaces. I think that's the first place to start. Retailers and brands used to go to trade shows or meet each other in showrooms, or wholesale reps would go door to door to source inventory for stores and connect brands and retailers. And massive wholesale marketplaces like Fair, Tundra, Bulletin, Abound have kind of taken that over. So I think the one thing to call out is retailers have now had to defer to online marketplaces and online channels to source inventory for their stores so that they have great, compelling inventory to sell to their customers in such a challenging time. I would say the second thing is retailers are now selling that inventory so much more multi-channel than they were previously. When COVID hit, we had so many brick and mortar retailers in our community last year that had never done e-commerce before. They were brick and mortar retailers in small towns, in strip malls. I mean, you name it. They really exclusively relied on foot traffic and getting people in the door in order to sell. And so we've seen a lot of brick and mortar retailers have to pivot to online retail and do deep assessments around what online sales platform makes sense for them. Is it Shopify? Is it Squarespace? Is it something else? Is it BigCommerce? And so that's been really interesting, just this massive acceleration of e-commerce adoption by retailers, buyers, and store owners who didn't necessarily have to weigh or think through these things. The same exact thing is happening in restaurants. Restaurants have had to go online. Many of them were used to serving their customers in person. They've had to adopt new tools and a new toolkit in order to do on-demand delivery or create subscription boxes of non-perishable foods. I would say overall, the biggest e-commerce trends I'm starting to notice are live shopping and live selling platforms. With the rise of platforms like Pop Shop Live, where retailers and brands can essentially host their own mini QVC style like selling session. You're able to literally shop the show in real time. It's super seamless. I believe they have a Shopify sync and integration. So all of your inventory can sync from your D2C and wholesale channel to your Pop Shop Live inventory. We're seeing the rise of Facebook Live selling on Instagram Live, selling on Amazon Live, these platforms that have already existed, but the adoption of them has really increased in COVID because retailers are really hungry for omni-channel sales experiences. One, because a lot of them were stuck with inventory all through COVID that they couldn't sell through their normal channels. They needed to liquidate inventory other places. And secondly, because customers are stuck at home and these are the new channels that they're deferring to shop. The last thing I'll say, and I think this is a very early trend that I think is going to keep accelerating, is there's a new platform that I love called Cara.la. It's CARA.la. And it's essentially like a hyper cute, really modern, like TJ Maxx meets Home Goods. TJ Maxx and Home Goods don't currently have e-commerce distribution. There's some of the retailers that were much slower to pivot to e-commerce through the pandemic, despite I think it having been a really missed opportunity for them. So these resale platforms like Cara are filling the void. So if you're a retailer on this call or you're a brand and you have inventory that you want to liquidate, I would totally check them out because they'll buy the inventory from you, take it off your hands and sell it to this end consumer that's still looking for that discount, that's still looking for that bargain hunt, that kind of obsessive discovery experience, but they can't do it in person at TJ Maxx and Home Goods, and Cara is a great replacement.
Well, that's fascinating. I did not know about TJ Maxx and Home Goods not like shifting over. So that's really interesting.
It's wild. I feel they're leaving so much money on the table. I just moved apartments during COVID and I was like, I wish that I could shop Home Goods online.
And live shopping is something I've not done yet, but I feel like I will now.
Yeah, it's an activity. It's a way for people to be entertained and get the great products and inventory that they need at the same time.
Definitely. I actually want to touch on something you mentioned a little earlier. You mentioned that these brick and mortar retailers or physical locations had to do research, right, to like figure out what's the best platform. So if like a brand like Home Goods or TJ Maxx still hasn't, or a smaller like mom and pop shop or whatever it is, hasn't transitioned to e-commerce, how do they do that research to make sure they're on the right platform? Because it is kind of daunting, right? It's like, where do you start if you haven't done it yet?
So when I've had to do this in the past for Bulletin, not necessarily for e-commerce platforms, because we built our solution from scratch, but I had to do this for our marketing and sales machinery and technology and the platforms that we use there. I usually take 3 days and I decide to just pull up lists on Google, like top e-commerce platforms or the difference between the top 5 e-commerce platforms. Do your own research, literally dedicate those 3 days to looking through all the sites, but also scheduling informational chats with people at those companies. A lot of them have live chat bots. A lot of them you can schedule a quick 20-minute informational session. A lot of them will give you a demo. I think that having that one-on-one support is really important. So don't just go based off what these companies are saying that they do on their blogs or on their websites, because in a lot of cases, they might be selling you something that doesn't exist in full yet, or they might be teasing something that isn't the full solution that you need. So I always love having those one-on-one conversations with people at these companies and saying, this is the list of 10 things I need to be able to do. These are the 5 things I'm worried about. Why do you think this solution makes sense for me? But I will say the most important thing to do is talk to other store owners, whether it's businesses that are joining Uber Eats versus Caviar versus Seamless versus DoorDash. If you're a retailer and you're considering Squarespace versus Shopify versus Wix versus BigCommerce, you need to have conversations with people that are using these tools because they are the best, most organic, and most authentic advice that you're going to get. And if you don't belong to a community, or you're struggling to figure out how to find these people, DM restaurants that are in your neighborhood on Instagram. Give them a call. See if you can find their email on their website. I've noticed in working with small businesses now for nearly 6 years that this community loves helping each other. It's a business profile where picking up the phone, giving advice, answering a few questions over email or over Instagram message is not a big deal. It's something that they love to do because they've probably asked someone else for that help before. So I would say do your research, take 3 days, dedicate the time, talk with individual people at those companies. But the most valuable information you're going to get is from business owners that are actually using those platforms and can give you the true, raw, real in and out of this is what this platform is capable of, and this is stuff that it just can't do.
I love that. The word of mouth and those testimonials are just so priceless. It is like when you said you just moved into a new apartment. It's like when you move into a new apartment building, you talk to the tenants there, ask them what they think of the building. And the DM thing is really interesting. So I'd love to actually talk about social media and how does social media play into that whole e-commerce strategy?
I feel like the social selling thing from like Pop Shop Live, Instagram integrating with Shopify and launching Instagram shops, TikTok integrating with Shopify and launching shoppable TikTok ads. We're in a massive boom right now. And all I want to share is I know this stuff can be intimidating. I'm launching a book in less than 2 weeks, and I had to learn how to do reels. I had to learn how to do TikTok. I'm an older millennial and I'm running a business. And I know that learning new tools and platforms can be really overwhelming. But what I'll share is that once again, it's about dedicating like 5 hours to just like, I want to learn all about Instagram shops. I want to learn about Instagram collections and guides. I want to learn about the integration between TikTok and Shopify. It's giving yourself that time so that you can block everything else out, get down to the nitty gritty and say, does this make sense for my business? And let me just play around with these tools a little bit and take the pressure off. Social media is the new storefront. We know that users and consumers have flooded Instagram, have flooded platforms like TikTok because they have nothing else going on. We're all sitting at home. We're still dealing with the reality of the pandemic. And it used to be, I think, that social media was part of a user's journey and learning about your company, learning about your brand, learning about your store, learning about what you have to offer. But now it literally is the point of sale in so many cases because Instagram has this entire new discovery section that's all about shopping and e-commerce. So the thing I'll say is invest in social media, take the time to just like learn it in little bits and pieces. It doesn't need to be something that's super overwhelming. And I would really highly recommend promoting yourself on social media. That's what works really well. I work with a lot of small business consultants through Bulletin. We partner with them. We extract insights from them. And social media ads, TikTok ads, Instagram posts about your products work better if there are human beings in the posts. We're all desperate for connection right now. We're all really lacking that socialization that we had pre-COVID. And so if you are going to pursue these platforms and start using these integrations and start using these channels to sell, I would just really, really stress like putting yourself in the photo with the necklace that you sell, featuring the line cooks at your restaurant, featuring the business owners that run the restaurant. It's really important to personalize e-commerce because otherwise you just become a product image or like another picture of a hamburger. So it's important on social to not forget to tell your customers why you're special, tell that human story, and really allow them to not only shop with you in your business, but also connect with you in your business.
Allie, that is such a good point. And for years when I was at Ad Age or Campaign, we talked about humanizing the brand, right? And I think that's so important, especially right now, because we are on screens all the time. And actually, before we ask another question, I was just curious, do you have a favorite social media platform personally?
I use Instagram the most. I feel like TikTok, I feel like if I had a month off, I'd nail TikTok. Like it is a little bit more labor intensive to create the snackable like 15-second or 30-second content that does super well on TikTok. Twitter to me is not super great for e-commerce. It's not really built for that. And I find that the polarization and the negativity on Twitter and the cancel culture is something that I don't want to invite into my space and into my mind and into my veins. And outside of that, I mean, I watch YouTube like tutorials if I need to learn a new platform or learn a new skill or learn a new Excel trick. But really, Instagram is my go-to because I think it's what I'm most familiar with. And that's another point. You don't need to do all of these platforms. Like, pick the one that works for you and stick with it. You're not a content agency. So don't feel like, oh, I need to be on TikTok. I need to be on Instagram. I need to be on Clubhouse. I need to be doing YouTube. Find the ones that work best for hitting your goals as a business and double down on that. You don't need to spray across all of them because it's going to be very overwhelming.
I totally agree. And I also cannot seem to figure out TikTok. And I had many friends try to have me personally figure it out. And for Today I'm Brave, it was actually similar. We tried to do all things at once. And it was like Twitter this. And we realized that Twitter was just not really working for us either. But Instagram is our go-to.
Twitter really loves the like polarization. Like, Twitter isn't going to, you're not going to take off on Twitter unless you're like starting a fight, you're bringing someone down, I think it's very useful in a lot of spaces, but I think for e-commerce, it's a distraction.
So I would love to shift gears for a second and just talk about what are some issues that maybe brick and mortar businesses may not think about when they go online, or something they may not think through right away.
I think inventory management is a huge issue for businesses, and we experience this too. We're currently building an inventory integration system for both our brands and retailers so that the inventory that you shop on Bulletin is reflective of the inventory that the brand actually has available as per their inventory management system. And then retailers should be able to seamlessly order from Bulletin and sync all those items directly to their point of sale, whether it's an offline point of sale or their e-commerce platform. Inventory management is like a massive headache. I suggest using a platform like Trunk. I think they just launched last year, but they allow brands and businesses to sync their inventory across Etsy, Shopify, Amazon, whatever e-commerce tools and marketplaces you're using to grow. And that's something I would just keep in mind up front. A lot of businesses don't think of inventory management when they go online. But if you're selling items in person and the items you're selling in person aren't syncing to your e-commerce platform, you might get orders online that you can't fulfill. And then that creates a really tense and unfortunate experience for the customer where they're like, I thought I was getting this. It was on your site. What do you mean that it's out of stock? And I think that is becoming more and more creating a more and more negative experience for consumers. And I think a lot of that's driven by Amazon. Amazon has set the e-commerce experience bar for customers. And when you order something on Amazon, you're never going to get a notification that it's actually out of stock. You're never going to get a notification that it's actually going to ship in 2 months. And so with that in mind, you have to think about delivering an e-commerce experience that, as close as possible, gives customers that Amazon experience, which is really unfortunate because none of us are Amazon. Like, we don't have the same toolkit. But another great tool I would consider using is Deliver. It's the word deliver with 2 R's at the end. It basically gives small businesses the same toolkit that Amazon has in doing 2-day shipping and just fulfilling to the customer really quickly. And that's the second thing after inventory management that I think a lot of businesses need to keep in mind when they go online is you need to make sure that you're fulfilling these orders quickly. It's not just about flipping a switch, having your inventory reflect on the online site as it does in your brick and mortar store. It's about giving the customer that really seamless experience from checkout through the package arriving at their door. And so I think really optimizing your fulfillment for 2-day shipping, or at least transparent shipping. This is going to ship in 48 hours. I'll send you the tracking as soon as it's out the door. You can track it here. Sending those updates is something that I think a lot of retailers don't factor in. But even if you are doing transparent shipping right now, a lot of platforms like Shopify make that super easy. They just handle those email notifications for you. I would consider looking into Deliver with 2 R's because it'll give you that edge of getting items to your customers faster and actually let you compete with Amazon when a customer's sitting there thinking, oh, I need essentials for my home. I love that boutique around the corner, that eco-friendly boutique that sells essentials, but I have no idea if it's going to get to me in time. You can fill in that gap and answer that question for the customer by working with a partner like that to speed up your fulfillment time.
So actually, while you were talking about that, I was glancing over at the Q&A, and it was perfect because you're talking about inventory and shipping and tracking. And someone actually asked, Tamara Wiseman asked, what advice do you have for the best payment platform when you're going online for going e-commerce for the first time?
Yeah. So I mean, I love Shopify. I'm just going to say it. I am biased because we used to use Shopify as our in-person point of sale in our stores. And then going online was so easy because they're an e-commerce solution, and their POS and hardware system is kind of secondary to the online solutions that they've built. I love Shopify. I think that their payment processing partner is Stripe. We use Stripe currently for our wholesale marketplace, and Stripe has kind of become the end all be all like payment processor for the internet. I think that if you're going to use a tool like Squarespace, I love Squarespace, but that platform's only really great if you don't have a ton of SKUs. The load time's really slow install once you start adding a large collection of products to their platform. I will always recommend Shopify because I've used it personally. It's literally a business in a box. It makes doing e-commerce so seamless. And the other thing I love about Shopify is they have an entire app store. They literally have it's like an octopus, like their Shopify, and then they have all these offshoots and all these other apps that you can use for free to learn more about your customers, do expedited shipping, find out who your most influential customers are by Shopify apps scraping their Instagram or scraping their TikTok and seeing how many followers they have. So if you want a kind of full suite solution that handles the payment processing, that's pretty affordable, and that will help you grow as you scale, I definitely recommend Shopify. That's like always my number one.
I will now always think of an octopus with Shopify when I'm just
it's not even an octopus, because there's so many offshoots. Like the app store, it's like entering a mall of just like amazing plugins that you just click a few buttons and you suddenly have access to extra technology that you probably wouldn't get on other platforms. Not to knock other platforms, but Shopify is a multi-billion-dollar company for a reason.
Doing something right?
Yeah.
And then, so if you are a business and you are going e-commerce for the first time, I know you mentioned restaurants, right, took advantage of the pandemic a lot, and like they needed to transition, ones that never had been online before. What about what you should and shouldn't sell online? What advice do you have there?
So there are a few kind of categories that, in my experience, you need to see in person in order to successfully sell them online and not get a high volume of returns. Things with scents, like perfumes, for example, things like natural skincare, where the quality of the blend looks different bottle to bottle. Often what happens is customers get these natural ingredients to their door and they're like, this looks different than the picture, or why is this only 75% full? And we don't offer returns through Bulletin's marketplace. We have the brands and retailers broker that directly. But often with certain types of cosmetics or things that have scents, the return rate is pretty high because it's something that the customer really needs to touch and feel, unless they've used the candle before or something like that. So I would just be wary of that and maybe do sell those things online. But when you sell them, have a very specific policy that's all of these items are non-returnable, because you're basically the customer is taking a chance. You and the customer have to both acknowledge that the customer is taking a chance, and maybe it's not about removing it from your assortment or not selling it online. But it's about letting the customer know that if they buy these things that subjectively they might not like the smell, they might not like the taste, these items are non-returnable, because you'll end up in a shipping nightmare, shipping the things back and forth and losing money on the order and losing time. The other thing I would stress is it's really important to focus on your best sellers online. When I saw brands and businesses pivoting to e-commerce in the pandemic, if it was a retail store that sold 100 SKUs, they weren't putting all 100 SKUs online and ordering more of those SKUs. They picked the top 25, and that was how they started. You don't want to get into a situation where you're dealing with online listings and inventory levels for items that just don't translate well online or don't sell really well for you. It is a fair amount of work to like manage an e-commerce platform, do the inventory management, fulfill orders, accept returns. So think of online as like if a customer was doing window shopping, they should see like your 20 to 30 best hits. And you maybe don't necessarily want to give them too many options, especially if a lot of those options typically don't sell well for you, because it's going to be a lot to maintain those listings.
Perfect. And actually, I want to just go back to restaurants really quickly, because I know we kind of started this question with that. And we do have a question from someone in the audience. They asked, how have restaurants, do you feel, taken advantage of this e-commerce boom?
Yeah. So this has been really interesting because we've been on the ground level and seeing this happen in real time. We've seen so many restaurants. Well, I'll go back in time. So in like the end of summer of last year, at the end of the pandemic, there's an amazing restaurant in my old neighborhood before I moved called Convivium Osteria. And it's a delicious family-owned Italian restaurant. They've been in the neighborhood for decades. It's literally the same cooks, the same waiters, the same hostess every single time you go. It's like this massive, amazing family that's just cooking like homemade meals for you day in and day out. And we walked by and I saw that they literally converted themselves into a mini high-end grocery store. So they weren't able to take customers and seat them and do indoor dining in New York. There were restrictions in place. And so they literally decided, let's become a high-end Italian grocer until COVID ends. And so they would use a platform like Bulletin to order high-end crackers with fennel in it that had some sort of Italian spin. Or they would source like they'd repackage the fresh mozzarella that they bought wholesale from their supplier and sell it individually wrapped to customers. They would buy jars of jam on Bulletin and sell it to their customers. So I think it's been really interesting because restaurants have done a lot of things, like they're building outdoor like huts that people can eat in. They're joining all these delivery services, but those services, people on this call probably know, they take a crazy cut. They take an insane commission from you. And so I'm seeing a lot of restaurants kind of supplement their income by becoming these mini grocery stores online and in person so that they can make back some of the margin that they're losing on those delivery orders by selling these items direct to consumer and kind of taking the materials that they would normally use to cook and repackage them and, sell them as a grocery item.
That is really smart. And I actually live in New York, and I've definitely seen that through the pandemic. And it's really great sometimes to be able to still get a favorite product somewhere when, you can't sit in a restaurant.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's funny, Allie, you're getting so many great questions from the audience as well, which is awesome. But we're going to have to shift over in a minute because I really want to dive into your book. But before we dive into your book, I just think it'd be really important to talk about how going online changes your marketing strategy. So I feel like that's something helpful for everyone in the audience to learn about.
Yeah. I think a lot of this goes back to trying to take the humanity and the connection that you were able to build in person with your customers and translate it online as much as possible. Putting your team's face into your social media posts, onto your website, onto TikTok, onto even Yelp pictures. Like redo your Yelp profile to be like, hi, we're the business owners, and pictures holding your delicious food that you make, whatever it is, in front of your boutique, in front of your store. I would say the second thing is personalization. This is less about marketing and it's more about actual execution, but I think that there's a way to do this in marketing. If you're sending a welcome email to someone that signs up for your newsletter or thank you email to someone that just placed an order with you online, create templates that include their names in those emails. Hey, Jen, thank you so much for your order. Here's the tracking information. It could be that you're trying to take the clienteling that you were doing in person if you're a boutique and doing it on social media. I've met so many store owners who would do these like in-person styling sessions, and they would go on Instagram Live with one of their longtime customers that they would clientele with, and the customer would be like, I'm looking for like, exactly what they would say coming into the store. I'm looking for like sustainable, cleaning products for my home to tackle COVID, and I'm looking for really great loungewear. And then the store owner would be in their store and kind of put together an assortment for this customer on Instagram Live. So think about the things that make you magical as a business owner. Maybe it's the clienteling and you have that really personal touch with your customers, in which case build that personalization into your marketing strategy, build it into your content on social media, build it into your order confirmation and e-commerce emails that you're sending your community. Maybe it's not the clienteling. Maybe it's just like the quality of your food. Maybe your restaurant is known for being the best restaurant ever. Take high res images of your food. Like look at all the pictures that we see on Seamless and all these platforms. Do the same thing. You can do it with an iPhone, but like if you feel like you're not being able to properly convey the quality of your food because people aren't walking by and smelling it, they're not seeing it on other people's plates, how do you translate that with creative content on all these different marketing and social media platforms? So I think a lot of it is just thinking strategically about what made me magical. Why did customers love me when they came in person? Why have I been able to be in business for this long? It's hard to be in business. Most small businesses fail within 5 years. So if you're on this chat and you're 5 years plus old, you're doing something right. Figure out what that is, and then think of creative ways to sprinkle it through your marketing and pivot your marketing to address that secret sauce.
I love how to make your business magical. That made me happy. And just for everyone watching, I know we have a lot of questions from the audience, but Allie has a book coming out, and perhaps that book, How to Build a Goddamn Empire, will answer some of those questions as well. And we're going to talk about the book a little bit, but definitely purchase the book when it comes out. I'm sure every question you have will be in that book for sure. But Allie, tell me about this book. It's coming out in April, How to Build a Goddamn Empire. It's a great name. Tell us about the idea behind it.
Yeah, I was hoping to have a copy to show off, but there's none in the room right now. Okay, the book. Wow, crazy. It comes out in less than 2 weeks. It's been 3 years in the making. So I actually was, Bulletin was in the New York Times, which was amazing. Our store in New York was in the New York Times in 2017. And I've been a writer my whole life. Since I was very young, I wanted to write a book. And we were approached by a literary agent that was like, your story is super interesting. You're a female founded retailer. If you were to put a book together about entrepreneurship, what would you want to say? And I, like so many of you on this call, felt like running a business was a hellscape. Like there were so many highs, so many lows. It was a total emotional and psychological roller coaster. I always felt like I was constantly pivoting, having to learn new things, dealing with insecurity that I wasn't good enough, I wasn't smart enough. And there was just a lot of like stress and, highs and lows tied in with running a business. At the same time, I felt like a lot of what I was seeing in the media and what a lot of other female founders were pushing in press and on social media was like that entrepreneurship was this very glamorous thing. And everyone is posting their press hits and their wins and how they're crushing it. And I just didn't see a lot of small business owners and business owners in general getting candid about their anxious moments, their depressive moments, their mistakes, their failures. And to me, when we don't hear those stories, those true, organic, authentic stories about the mistakes, about the failures, about resilience, about grit, about times when you messed up and had to keep going, it makes entrepreneurship feel so much more taxing and difficult and intimidating for people that are just getting started. I always felt like when I was younger watching these other business owners, I was like, what am I doing wrong? Like, why is it that they seem so successful? Why are they getting all these press hits? Why are they growing like this or that? Why are they working with that influencer? And the truth is, I think women especially feel like they can't talk about their mistakes or talk about their failures because they want to build trust with their customers. They want to be attractive to businesses that might be giving them loans or other companies or businesses they might be partnering with. And somehow that vulnerability is equated with weakness, or that vulnerability is equated with not being good enough or not being powerful enough. And so I set out to interview 30 other business owners about their experience building their brands and their businesses, building their communities, using new platforms, making mistakes, failing along the way, and telling their stories in addition to my story. My entire goal as an entrepreneur is to make entrepreneurship really accessible and exciting and less of this stressful, intimidating thing for young women and aspiring entrepreneurs everywhere. And so the book is about how to build a business, but it's also about kind of the more emotional and psychological implications of being a business owner and what it takes to overcome those moments and keep moving forward and keep building.
I love that you talk about vulnerability. I think that people don't talk about it enough, especially business owners, leaders, entrepreneurs, because the best leaders in the world are vulnerable. They're the ones that are up, they share their mistakes, like you said. That being said, I know we only have a few more minutes. I would love for you to tell us what was the hardest part about writing the book and what was your favorite part about it?
I think the hardest part was feeling like I deserved to be writing a book. Like so many women and people in general, deal with imposterism and imposter syndrome all the time. To get a book deal at that age, at the stage our business was at, I was like, who wants to hear from me? Why do I deserve to tell this story? But I was able to move past it. And the best part of writing the book was interviewing these other women. I decided, this isn't about me. Let's tell the story of these other incredible business owners and their accomplishments and their failures and the things that they've had to push past and learn and get through. And that's pretty much where I landed. I definitely feel more confident and more secure in the fact that this book deserves to exist in the world. And I'm so proud of all the work that I put in. But I think the thing that got me through those like anxious moments or feelings of insecurity was collecting the stories from these other incredible women and realizing that this was a moment to give them a platform.
Can you tease out any, like maybe one or two of the interviewees?
Yeah. So one of the amazing interviewees is Mina Harris, Kamala Harris's niece. If you don't know about her business, phenomenal woman, check it out. It's been featured everywhere, even before the election. Mina is such a powerhouse. She's so incredible. She's a full-time mom. She's building a business at the same time. She was building a business while working a corporate job for like many years. And she's just unbelievable. We also feature Trinity Mouzon-Wofford. She's the founder of an incredible beauty and wellness company called Gold. They won the Glossier Beauty Grant last year. They've been featured in a ton of press, and they've been fully bootstrapped. Trinity and her partner, her fiance, Issei, have been building this business for the past, I think, like 3 to 4 years. And just what they've accomplished in such a short amount of time is such a testament to the fact that if you have a conviction, a value system, a belief in what you want to put out into the world, and you work really hard, you can accomplish amazing things. So those are two women that I'm so proud to feature.
And are all 30 interviewees women?
All of them are women. Well, there is a couple in the book, Ash and Chess, and Ashley is a woman and Chess is not, but that's pretty much.
And they cover all different industries, right? Just for our audience, yeah.
Yeah, so we have product-based businesses. Jasmine Mans is featured. She just came out with a book called Black Girl Call Home. It's a poetry book. She built a speaking and poetry business, and also has a brand in addition to that. So there's a lot of different businesses and a lot of different profiles featured throughout the book.
Perfect. And then lastly, I know we have like less than a minute. Where can people find the book? Where can our viewers?
It's called How to Build a Goddamn Empire. I'm not sure if there's like a way for me to share the pre-order link, but it is available on Amazon, Walmart, Barnes and Noble. If you go to my Instagram, it's at Ali Kriegs, ALIKREGS. There's a link in my bio where you can pre-order specifically from indie bookstores in Philly, San Francisco, LA, and New York, which are all the cities that are featured in the book.
Amazing. And I have to say, I love the cover. I did see you teasing it out on your Instagram, so everyone follow her on Instagram and see the cover. It's awesome. Ali, thank you so much. This has been great. I hope everyone enjoyed our State of the Union for e-commerce. And I'll pass this back over to the other Ali.
Thank you so much. You guys were absolutely amazing. Ali and Lindsay. Ali Kriegsman, Krie, now accurately displayed. I really loved your emphasis on self-promotion on social media. It's such a powerful tool and reminder that connection on social media, that human interaction and personalization, it's just so special. So, ditch just the product photo and put yourself in there. And congratulations on your upcoming book, How to Build a Goddamn Empire. I just like saying that. I feel like I just want to, say that all day.
It's a good title for sure.
It's a great title. I love the color. I love the title. I'm sure it's fabulous, just like the both of you. So I'm going to invite you ladies to pop off stage. You can turn your cameras off. Thank you again. You were absolutely amazing.